I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done.
Yo, what's up guys? In today's video, the protuberance is back and we'll be going over a build called Foul Play Zane. We're going to be playing dirty like we always are and fouling out our enemies. But before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Borderlands 3 Mayhem 4 Zane builds, and don't forget to join the Zane Nation Discord channel. Link will be in a pinned comment down below. Big shout out to Melting NT for the build. He's been playing with the protuberance for a long time now. This is also an old favorite gun of mine, but he put together and designed this build, so big shout out to him. Foul Play Zane is mostly centered around a very amazing explosive weapon called the protuberance. We're using this gun for mobbing. It can also be used for bossing. It's a very powerful weapon that a lot of you have seen me use before, but we haven't played with it since the new class mod came out. So the first weapon we're going over is obviously going to be the protuberance. It is a purple alien barrel Torgue shotgun that's basically a grenade launcher. It basically shoots out a grenade that explodes and bounces into 3 more in a small radius around it. This weapon pairs perfectly with playing dirty, making each shot basically shoot 8 projectiles total. You're looking for a radiation protuberance for general mobbing. Pretty much any damage anointment will do. We're using the clone and doppelbanger in this build, so any action skill and anointments are great as well. However, we found a very cool one with Sentinel Cryo, which matches perfectly because we're using the Sentinel. Our second gun is actually a shock protuberance. Now, this is basically specifically going to be for taking out bosses' shields or just super tanky enemy shields. I really like using this on the badass war dogs. They have very thick shields, but once again, you can find this with any damage anointment you want. And that'll be great. Now, the last thing I want to mention about the protuberance real quick, you are basically looking for one around 3,000 damage. This gun is kind of confusing sometimes because this gun was basically nerfed in a hotfix. So if you don't have hotfixes applied, the damage can vary. It'll look like 8,000 to 9,000 damage offline, but once you go back online, it'll be about 3,000. If you're not sure, the exact part is the magazine that gives this, I forget offhand, but I believe 500 to 600% bonus damage. So if you're not sure, basically just go into the parts and look at the magazine size, and you should see a huge damage bonus on there. Basically, if you find one of the very bad ones with under 1,000 damage, though, just throw it out. It's not going to be good enough. Basically, you're looking for around 3,000 damage and you'll be good. Now, the next gun we're using in this build, the third one in our slots, is the face puncher. Since the protuberance is our primary gun and we're basically spamming it a whole lot, we're going to be using the face puncher cut purse combo to keep our ammo up. There's also actually some very cool tricks with the face puncher, like you can actually make a lot of enemies stumble. Where I found this to be most useful is actually shooting the jetpack Malawan troopers out of the sky. And like I said, you can also stumble lots of enemies when they're in certain attack animations, like the heavyweight badasses. So use the face puncher as the utility weapon it is. Stumble enemies, shoot those annoying jetpack snipers out of the sky, regenerate your ammo. I actually used it on every single jetpack enemy I ran into in the first part of the raid, and it's one of my favorite tricks. And finally, the last gun in our slots is a corrosive Tediore Everblast. You are looking for the homing Merv versions of this, but it is the best gun in this build to get through thick armor. I use this for the Kraken, I use this for the Valkyries, I use this for Wotan, and probably most importantly, I use this for the Death Spheres. The Death Spheres and the dogs are some of the most annoying enemies in the entire raid, and if you blow your clone, activate some of your action skill and anointments, then spam this Everblast a couple times, you will literally kill all the Death Spheres very easily. And for those of you who think TDR chucking is a cheap trick, well, this is Foul Play Zane. We're playing dirty, we're pulling out all the cheap tricks we can, and by the way, you can get these in any element depending on where you're fighting. The element corrosive that I'm suggesting is mainly for the Maliwan takedown. So let's move on to the shield we're using. We are using the stopgap. You are looking for a stopgap with elements on action skill end. Between this and the grenade, you're basically going to want corrosive, shock, and fire. 2 out of the 3 elements. Fire can help you get through some of the heavyweight badasses, but otherwise, I think like shock and corrosive will help you the most for getting through that thick armor, for getting through big shields. Like for example, you really want shock against the Death Spheres, because if you're throwing a corrosive Everblast, if there is 50% bonus shock on it, I believe you can kill a Death Sphere with 1 chuck. So for the grenade, we're actually using a cryo recurring hex. Since we're using the clone and we're using fractal frags, the clone will actually spam enough of these to help with some of the crowd control, slowing down the playing field a little bit. The clone is actually pretty good at tanking a bunch of damage, not only because of the stopgap, but also the hex grenades. Since Fractal Frags is a kill skill, he'll basically be spamming these and he can slow a bunch of enemies down. And once again, you're trying to find this with an element on action skill end. Now on to the artifact. We're actually using the Cutpurse for most situations. We're only using shotguns in this build, so we're gonna need to regenerate our ammo. You are mainly looking for the bonus magazine size on your artifact. A Victory Rush is great, but if you have bonus magazine size on any Cutpurse at all, I'd take that over the Victory Rush. Now, the second artifact we're using is actually a Snowdrift. When bossing against normal bosses like Captain Trot, you're never gonna run through all of your ammo, so the good old slide and shoot will be your best friend. It'll basically help you push out a bunch of extra damage to farm them a lot quicker. And finally, for the class mod, we're obviously going to be using Seeing Dead. Once again, I think the most important stat on here will be magazine size and Donnybrook. Don't worry about finding extra points in playing dirty. We only need about 5 points total in playing dirty, so just look out for Donnybrook. However, if you do find some points in playing dirty, then that just gives you some extra points to spend in other places on the skill tree. So it's not a bad thing. Now moving on to the skills, no barriers here, so ignore the barrier tree completely. We're using the clone and the drone trees, but we'll still have more than enough survivability. So first, in the drone tree, we've got all of our kill skills nearly maxed out. Cool Hand, Violent Violence, Playing Dirty, Violent Momentum, Violent Speed. All of these have nearly maxed out points in all of them. All of these skills will give us some insane DPS. We basically want to pump out as many bullets as we can, and all of these skills do just that. So the fact that we get to put all of these points into these skills is amazing. Now when it comes to survivability, I really want to highlight into the clone tree. We've got Old U and Fractal Frags. Even without Boom Enhance, the clone has some amazing tankiness. When you want extra damage, you can just blow him up with Doppelbanger, but for general mobbing, you can just let him sit out and pick you up with Old U. If you want to go for Boom Enhance, you can make your clone a little bit tankier, which will just add a little bit more survivability. It's more likely that he'll be living when you go down. I believe it'll only take 2 more points to get to Boom Enhance, so you can just sneak those points out of somewhere in the drone tree. Now what's great about the shooting pattern of the protuberance is since there are 2 impacts per shot, you get a good sequence of healing from salvation. Reloading isn't usually a big deal because of this, basically because even though you aren't shooting in that exact moment, you can reload as the second burst of damage falls down, and salvation will still heal you in that time. But that's pretty much it for the skill trees. Now, this is a very fun mobbing build to play with, and what's great is the protuberance is also amazing for bossing. Like I said, all you have to do is toss on your slide speed artifact, maybe get a different element depending on what boss you're fighting, and you can complete nearly all of the content in this game. Also, don't doubt the TD or Everblast for bossing either. If you are sliding and reloading at the same time, the explosion will get all of that extra violent momentum damage added onto it, so you can boss with all of these weapons and items just fine. When it comes to the Wotan fight, because of how large of a fight it is, and usually it takes like an extended period of time, we unfortunately have to keep the cut purse on. We're mainly chucking corrosive everblasts at him repeatedly until we finish him off. The one thing to keep in mind though during this fight is you do not heal from salvation while chucking, so be sure to swap into your protuberance. If you ever need to heal, just shoot it at any enemy you can. But besides that, just don't try to kill yourself with all the AoE explosions. Try to take on enemies from a bit of a medium distance. If you ever need a huge spike of damage to get through certain enemies, blow up your clone with Doppelbanger. He has a pretty short cooldown anyway. But that's going to be it for the build today. I hope you guys can enjoy this one. If you find some of these purple weapons, hold on to them. Sometimes purple weapons are stronger than most legendaries, and that is definitely the case. We're literally only using purple weapons for damage in this build video. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it from me. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more Borderlands 3, Mayhem 4, Zane builds, and a quick shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys for supporting me. I'm going to toss up all your names on the screen, and I seriously appreciate all of you. But that's going to be it from me today. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.